Zach said in this Instagram live that it is in the Love Island guidelines that you can't do stuff like this. There are consequences. But two, there was a precedent set with Yulissa early in the season. And if you send Yulissa home, you have to send Cierra home. You can't, be lenient for one and not the other. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Happy Thursday. How are we? I got all gears kicking today. Just took my nasal spray. I got an air purifier this week, and I'm wearing fuzzy socks on July 10th. So, I'm just like being true to my authentic self. I'm living my best life over here. Running all the way. I was going to say running on empty, but I feel the opposite. Running on a full tank of gas. No thanks to Love Island, USA, because I feel like we all have gotten to the point where we're like, can we just be done with this now? And thankfully, we almost are. Of course, we'll dive deep into that today in the deep dive. Everything from that Maybelline challenge to Cierra's departure to the latest elimination. Do I have to say spoiler? Spoiler alert, because I get people mad all the time in my comment section. But if you're listening to this, you're caught up, right? You better be. Nothing really too crazy to talk about today. At the top of the show, rant. As you guys know, told you last week, we bought a house. I've been signing every document under the sun. If there has been a document printed, I have signed it, even if it doesn't belong to me. Couldn't tell you what it says. It's just when I see a contract, I all of a sudden can't read. So that's how I've been living life the past couple of days. But we're all steam ahead to get into that new house in August. We're struggling to find a painter. Here's the deal. So many weird, little rules and little quirks when buying a home. So we're supposed to move in August, right? Well, we're trying to pick a paint color. You can't pick a paint color unless you swatch it on the walls. We're not allowed in the house to swatch it on the walls. And then you call the contractor and they're like, oh, we can't give you a quote and we can't even put you on the books unless we're allowed to get into the house and look at it. And I'm like, they won't let me let you in. So it's how am I supposed to do any of this? Am I supposed to pay rent for 2 more months while they paint my house? Because I can't get in until we move in? I don't know. Honestly, it's above my pay grade. That's why I make my husband handle all the problems. Okay, let's get into the things that are my pay grade. Mindless celebrity news, TV recaps, the stuff that you guys love too. So let's start with the top 3. These are the biggest headlines in reality TV and pop culture of the week. Blake Lively is officially set to be deposed next week, July 17th to be exact. So, do I have to say? I feel like I always have to reset the table. That's some radio terminology for you guys. We have to reset the table. But do we really? You guys know that Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment and retaliation, right? Do I need to say that every single week? But she's going to be answering under oath here soon. So her lawyer, Mike Gottlieb, had previously told People magazine back in May. Now, this is about testifying, which is different from a deposition, but this is what he said. The ultimate moment for a plaintiff's story to be told is at trial. So we would, of course, expect her to be a witness at her trial. Of course, she's going to testify. Like I said, a deposition and a testimony during a trial are not the same things. Lawyers for dummies. I'm the dummy trying to teach you. So who knows if I'm even right. But a deposition happens before a trial. It kind of coincides with the discovery process, which is what they're doing right now. It's like a formal interview under oath, typically in a law office. Attorneys from both sides are present, and the person being deposed answering the questions will be recorded, often video and transcript. And then it's used to gather information to lock in a person's story ahead of a trial, and it's not in front of a jury. Those are the main differences. On the other side, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, shoot from the hip. Brian Friedman, sue you into oblivion, even though that's not happening anymore, said this on a June 10th appearance on TMZ Live. So he confirmed that her deposition was on the calendar and said, I'm going to ask her questions under penalty of perjury. She's going to have to provide evidence, the truth of the stories. We have all the video, all the footage, the text messages, and the emails. We'll see how her testimony stacks up against the actual facts. He also said in May, since Miss Lively is open to testifying, let's make it count, hold the deposition at Madison Square Garden, sell tickets or stream it, and donate every dollar to organizations helping victims of domestic abuse. Very Brian Friedman coded, right? Where you're like, did he just say that? Did he just say that? Yeah, he just said it. Sell tickets. It would sell. It would sell in today's day and age. So, like I said, her deposition happening on July 17th. Let's talk about Denise Richards getting divorced. She's getting divorced. And like, man, it's sad. But my notes say again, you know? So I do have to say Denise Richards is getting divorced. Again, TMZ broke the news this week that her husband, Aaron Vipers, has officially filed in LA, citing irreconcilable differences. According to the documents, the separation date was July 4th, so this happened rather quickly. They have been married for 6 years. They don't share any minor kids. Aaron is asking for spousal support and claims Denise rakes in over $250,000 a month for her OnlyFans account. $250,000 a month? I have never considered OnlyFans, ever. You guys know I'm a prude. But like, I could probably do feet pics and make what? Like, a couple grand, maybe. It's worth researching. Okay, I shouldn't say OnlyFans. I read it wrong. $250,000 a month for OnlyFans, TV gigs, brand deals, and appearances. Okay, so we're looking at what, like $50,000 a month for her OnlyFans, which is still a pretty penny. And he says he makes no money. He says he has zero income. Get a job, Aaron. He also gave a breakdown of their lifestyle, saying they've spent about $105,000 a month. That includes 20 grand on clothes, 18 grand on rent, $15,000 on restaurants, $15,000 on entertainment, $10,000 on groceries, and $8,000 for utilities, all of which he claims Denise has been footing the bill for. Well, obviously, he has zero income. Just to kind of give you a background of these guys' relationship history, Denise obviously was previously married to winning Charlie Sheen. And as for Aaron, he was married to Desperate Housewives star Nicolette Sheridan before tying the knot with Denise on an episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I don't believe he has no income. I don't believe he has zero income because they just started this new show together, Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. Maybe not together, but he makes cameo appearances on the show. I got to get SAG on the phone because I'm pretty sure they have to pay you for appearances on shows unless you verbally agree otherwise. So isn't that just wild? Zero income. And I didn't necessarily watch all of Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. I watched a couple of episodes. I think his family lives with them. And I'm pretty sure they have like 3 different apartment units that they all live in together. I don't know. It's just odd dynamics, odd family dynamics. I mean, if you follow the sisters, they're always at each other's throats, no matter what day, time, season it is. Sammy and Lola are always fighting about something. And people always ask, are you surprised? Are you surprised? And it's like, on one hand, kind of, because I just feel like Aaron and Denise were both like kind of kooky, quirky, could make it. But like the longer I get into this career and I watch these married couples on TV and they inevitably end up getting divorced, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I also feel like the longer I get into this career, I realize just how much people actually do hide from cameras, everybody across the board. And I'm not saying that I blame them. It's like a scary world we live in. But you just never really, you watch these people on TV, you don't actually know them. You know what I mean? Like, we might think that we know them, but turns out we actually don't. Let's move on to our third and final headline of the week. Bachelor in Paradise got a major glow up. Major. And it's making waves, no pun intended. This comes after a year plus that the franchise was on. They didn't have Bachelor in Paradise last year. And Bachelor in Paradise paved the way for all of these other huge reality dating shows, right? Love Island, Perfect Match. However, Bachelor in Paradise has been stuck in the year 2000. And I feel like they've been getting left in the dust. You know, the past couple of years, the show has not been as relevant. People don't really talk about it. I mean, look at Love Island. We're all talking about it every single day. You definitely don't see that type of hype around The Bachelor. So, coming into this season, it was a very pivotal moment. What are they going to do? Are they going to be able to keep up with these huge shows? And I've seen some discourse about it. Some people are not happy that Bachelor in Paradise is back with a totally different look, totally different feel, totally different vibe, different editing style, everything. And, you know, people miss the OG Bachelor in Paradise because they miss the theme song. They miss the corny poses. They miss them being sweaty messes because the resort doesn't have AC and they sleep in bunk beds. My personal opinion, I loved the glow up. It was so necessary. Like I said, it felt like Bachelor in Paradise has been stuck in the year 2000. And even just visually, it was so much more interesting to watch this week's episode of Bachelor in Paradise. I didn't find myself scrolling on my phone because I was intrigued. It was bright. It was happy. It was tropical. The drinks were flowing. Did you notice that everybody had a cocktail in their hand at every time? I'm like, does that mean that the 2-drink rule is no longer? Kind of feels that way. Although, you know, it could be like a mocktail or whatever. But I'm interested to see how the show progresses. You know, we have seen there will be some major differences. The Golden's coming in. They're going to have challenges. The money aspect, there's this $500,000 laying around in a leather carry-on bag, it seems. Like, what are they going to do with the money? You know, like I said, I get why the OG BIP watchers are mad, but I just think people don't like change. I think give it a chance, let the show unfold a little bit, and then make your opinion. Here's the thing. I feel like this change is here to stay because Scott Teddy, he was the executive producer and showrunner of Bachelor in Paradise this year. It was his first season doing so, and they've already hired him to do The Bachelor. So that tells me that we're in for a treat when it comes to Bachelor in Paradise. I don't think that you would automatically hire somebody if they weren't happy with the product or the outcome. This is Scott's first rodeo when it comes to the Bachelor franchise, but he did work on Bravo's Summer House. He worked on ABC's Claim to Fame. He worked on Married at First Sight. So not a newbie. And, you know, they whoever was running it before, Claire Freeland, and I can't remember the second person's name, but, you know, there were all these toxic workplace allegations. They stepped down. And I do just feel like it's a breath of fresh air. So we'll see. And just comparing watching Bachelor in Paradise to Love Island, I was just excited to not see somebody's booty moons for like, you know, a solid 10 minutes on my TV screens twerking. You guys know what the booty moons are? It's like when you go tanning, and we don't lay in the tanning bed anymore, right? Like that's also circa 2000, but remember you'd have to like kind of lift up, otherwise you get your little moons under your cheeks. And it's just like every time I watch Love Island, that's all I see is Hurrdat's booty moons twerking in my face, and I'm like, I need a break, okay? So Bachelor in Paradise, the PG version of Love Island. Speaking of Love Island, let's get into it. This week's deep dive, the Love Island debrief, the Cierra scandal, Amaya papaya, and everything in between. I'm going to go in chronological order, I think, of what happened, because I'm just going off my memory, right? But we get to this Maybelline challenge, and we were waiting for this one because we knew how it was going to end. You know, the night before, they had us vote for our favorite Islanders. We get to this challenge. It says most and it says least. And we're like, oh, they're going to know exactly where they rank. They didn't end up doing that, which I'm kind of disappointed by. But they did other things, right? America voted who's the most genuine, who's least genuine, who is most boyfriend material, who's least boyfriend material. What couple do people want to go on a vacation with, right? The general consensus was that America loves Amaya and Pepe and doesn't necessarily vibe right now with Shelley, Ace, and Taylor and Clark. However, it was very different when it came down to the actual bottom three. Like looking at the challenge, you would have thought Ace, Shelley, Clark, Taylor, and then maybe some of the Casa Amor girls and guys. We're going to be in that bottom 3, but that's not how it actually ended up shaking out. It was Jaden, Grayson, Andrina, Austin, Taylor, and TJ. So the initial gut check going into it was Taylor's going to stay. You know, they have one person that they can save. Clark's obviously going to vote for him. The only other person with a super strong connection was TJ, because Jaden and Austin are in a couple and they're both up there. Pepe broke up with Grayson. Brian broke up with Andrina. So we're like, okay, it's going to come down to Taylor or TJ, honestly, was my thought. So people started voting. And the vote really surprised me. It was very spread out. I think that they had learned from seasons past, you know, to not let anybody stand up there alone, embarrassing themselves. But I thought it was going to be a blowout, really, for Taylor, and it wasn't. And it actually came down to Andrina and Taylor with 4 people standing behind them. TJ had 3. Cierra goes and votes for Taylor. She says because of Nick. People were mad that she didn't pick TJ. They're like, oh, all this talk this season about being girls and ride or die. And then you have Cierra, you know, ignore her besties. Man, Iris and TJ. I could be wrong, but I did go back and watch it for a second time. It wouldn't have mattered. Even if Cierra would have voted for TJ, it still would have been outnumbered. It would have been 3 for TJ, 4 for, what's his name? Taylor. And I think 3 for Andrina. I think. I just remember like thinking that mathematically doesn't make sense. So really her only option was Taylor or Andrina. And I believe if it was Andrina, it would have caused a tie. So I kind of knew Cierra was going to do that. Don't really love it. Like I said, especially because you have Landria, your other BFF, even though Landria is making out with your man behind your back. It was like on par, you know, for this season. And there you had it. So Taylor stays. Clark wasn't in the bottom 3. Shelly and Ace weren't in the bottom 3, which I like Shelly. I don't like Ace, and that's unfortunate. I'll get into that a little bit more a little bit later. But that leads us up to the Cierra scandal and her getting kicked out of the villa. And it had been brewing on social media for a while. And you do have to remember it feels like we're watching them in real time. We're actually not. I don't know how far ahead they are. I think like at least a day they're ahead, right? So we were seeing all of these reports online that they were having crisis meetings on how to handle the Cierra situation, that everybody was pissed behind the scenes, that they were trying to figure out what to do. In case you live under a rock and you haven't seen what happened, Instagram stories of Cierra getting Botox resurfaced, and she used a racial slur to describe how she didn't want her eyes to look. Then it came out that someone had DM'd her saying, hey, this is derogatory. And that person sent her a screenshot of the definition of the word that she used. And she said, good thing I didn't use it like that. Then this onslaught of hate starts coming Cierra's way. You know, people sending hateful comments, hateful messages, death threats. Her friends are publicly disowning her. Her parents are writing this statement on Instagram. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but part of it said, we're not here to justify or ignore what's surfaced. We understand why people are upset, and we know accountability matters. But what's happening online right now has gone far beyond that. The threats, the cruel messages, the attacks on her family, her friends, and even her supporters. It's heartbreaking. It's uncalled for, and no one deserves that kind of hate, no matter what mistake they've made. Cierra got the boot for couple different reasons. I mean, obviously, it's offensive. Zach said in this Instagram live that it is in the Love Island guidelines that you can't do stuff like this. There are consequences. But 2, you know, there was a precedent set with Yulissa early in the season. And if you send Yulissa home, you have to send Cierra home. You can't, you know, be lenient for one and not the other. And 2, I think the fact that this happened more recently in 2024 certainly didn't, you know, do her any favors. I think all of it is sad from across the board. It like grieves my heart. And I know that that sounds dramatic, but it's true. Like, I'm sad that she said it, sad that she put it on an Instagram story, sad that she's receiving all of this hate, that her friends are publicly disowning her, you know, that her parents are having to go online and see all this stuff too. I also think it's sad that some people find enjoyment in watching other people's downfalls. And even though this is of way lesser importance, it's like not even important at all, but it is a factor, it's a disservice to the audience when your strongest couple gets broken up 1 week before the finale. Like, there's nothing they could have done to prevent it. It is what it is. It's done and over with. They had to send her home. But, like, it did impact the show, in my opinion, in a negative way. There's, like, no way around it. I'm just feeling like, what would it look like moving forward if, instead of kicking somebody off right away, if you let people address it in the moment, you know, like production go in, give them the heads up, this is what's happening. Like, what do you want to do? You know, I don't know how you combat it. I really don't. I feel like Peacock probably did the best that they could. And when you look at it as an isolated incident, it's like, okay, yes, that was the right decision. But then you see all of this online hate and you're like, two wrongs don't make a right, you know? Like, it's just sad. It's just all around sad. You know, nobody's perfect. Sometimes really good people make really stupid decisions. But your actions have consequences. Both things can be true. That's the way life goes. I do just want to point out, though, it's done now. You know, it's done. It's over with. It came to light. It got addressed. She's off the show. Leave Cierra alone. Leave her alone. You know, it's like people forget that 3 people that have been on this show have committed suicide. 3 people. For a show that's been around for, 10 years. Just leave her alone. It's done. It's over with. It's sad. I hate that it happened. I hate everything about it. But what can you do besides learn from it if you're Cierra and move on from it? And I'm really hoping that that's what the fans can do as well. Okay? Whew, let's come up for some air. Monday and Tuesday's episodes were painfully boring to me. Painfully. We had the babies and we had the basketball game. What? Like, what was this basketball game? You're telling me that there's no movie night, but we're going to watch these guys play ball for 5 minutes and drink Pepsis at the end of it. It's like, okay, we get it. You had to have the Pepsi ad. But can we make it a little bit more interesting? Can it be a challenge? Can it be a date? God forbid somebody goes on a date on Love Island USA. No, we're going to let the boys go play basketball because the boys are more in love with each other. I'm looking at you, Ace, Nick, Taylor, than they are their couples. Nothing burger. The fact that we're getting no movie night just leaves me in a puddle. Truly it does. And I understand there's nothing. There's nothing that they could put in movie night to make it interesting, and that's the problem, especially with Cierra gone. There was some stuff that could have been shown there when it comes to Nick and Alandria and being a girl's girl and all of those things, but it's like there's nothing. Well, there's no drama because nobody likes each other. Nobody likes each other. The biggest moments in Monday and Tuesday's episode, 1, Amaya and Brian going to the hideaway. Again, with the booty moons. I was looking at Amaya's booty moons and that hot pink lingerie. Like, it's more palatable because I like Amaya and I want her to find love. But still, okay. And then the second biggest moment was Taylor and Clark closing things off. Oh, I didn't mean to hit the table. I was just getting all amped up. It would not be Love Island USA Season 7 if a couple who actually finds love or are on their way to closes things off, dumped from the villa, because that's how this season of Love Island works. It should be Love Hater Island this season because let's just look at the stats, okay? Hannah and Charlie. Hannah and Pepe. Hannah was a lover girl. Can't blame her for it. Jeremiah and Andrina. TJ and Iris. And now Taylor and Clark. People dislike Taylor so much because of the way he moved in the situation with Alandria. And I get it, but also move on. Alandria has clearly moved on, so why haven't you? So now we're going into the finale with Hurrdat and Chris, who are on the verge of destruction at any moment. Iris and Pepe, who've been coupled up for 2 days. 2 days. Two. Ace and Shelly, who, unfortunately, I love Shelly. I don't love Ace. And that just affects my view of them as a couple. She's collateral damage to me not liking Ace. And then Nick and Alandra, which is getting annoying. Sorry, hot take. I know there's all these Nick Alandra stands out there, but I find it a little annoying. And then you have Amaya and Brian. They're winning. Just put us out of our misery. Okay. That's it. Can't believe it. We're down to the finale. I can't believe it. Amaya and Brian are winning. If they're not winning, who else is? Iris and Pepe? Everyone's going to break up 5 seconds after they get out of that villa. Can you believe it? And I almost did this TikTok today, but I was like, I don't want to get the brands all mad at me. But I was like, I was thinking, if you knew then what you knew now about Love Island USA, would you have watched it? Would you have invested your entire summer into it? I personally would not, and here's why. You have Love Island UK. You have the same thing in 2 different places on at the same time. And I'm hearing great things from Love Island UK. I'm hearing it's a classic season, lots of love, lots of triangles, lots of turning heads. We had no turning head. I mean, every head turned every which direction every 5 seconds because nobody cared about anybody. So I'm like, next year, am I going to watch Love Island UK? I'm thinking about it. And people are fighting me because I'm like, the season is a failure. When you look at like the love factor of it, right? The premise of the show, and people are like, it's not a failure. Viewership is up. It's all anybody is talking about. And I get it. I get that point. But people are talking about it because it's not living up to our expectations and our standards, which I don't know if that is a good thing. You know, it's kind of like The Bachelor when you think about it. It was going up, then it hit a plateau and boom, nosedived. And it's like, is that what's going to happen with Love Island USA? Don't know. I'll tell you what I am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to that finale because Beyond the Villa happens right after that, and I'm ready to see the PPG. All right, let's move on. Last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about the Golden Bachelor, what's happening with Mel Owens, because that's been a bit of a roller coaster as well. He's our honorable mention of the day. The next Golden Bachelor, Mel Owens, has been in the hot seat over some comments made last month on a podcast. Basically, he's 66 years old, okay? And basically went on a podcast saying, I told my producers, don't cast anybody over the age of 60. I only date 45 to 60-year-olds. Stay away from artificial wigs and hips. I need somebody active, healthy, that works out, whatever, but can't be over the age of 60. And obviously that immediately offends 95% of your target demographic, who are women who one day will be 65 years old and still can play pickleball. Mel Owens, right? So then there's this rumor that he's being replaced, that ABC doesn't want to put their eggs in that basket because all the eggs have cracked at this point and the yolk is everywhere. So Reality Steve went on Twitter and he says, exclusive, I'm hearing that Mel Owens is out as the Golden Bachelor due to recent negative publicity surrounding his June 4th podcast appearance. Expect an announcement soon, including who is going to replace him. Haven't heard a name yet on who that is. Will update if/when I hear. So I was like, oh, maybe they are changing gears. Then I got 2 industry insiders sliding into the DM saying he's not out. ABC is standing by their man, which I thought they would do. They can't admit defeat. You know, they have to stand on their decision 10 toes down no matter what. They haven't come out and like reference the rumors at all, but Jesse Palmer did do an interview with Us Weekly where he said, I've seen the headlines. Obviously, because I'm on social media, I have not heard the podcast. He says, we haven't started filming Golden yet, so I haven't spent a ton of time with Mel. The small amount of time I have spent with him, he seems like a good guy, but I know I'm going to get to spend a lot more time with him pretty soon. I'm sure that's something we're going to talk about. So he's pretty much confirming that he's not going anywhere. But this is kind of what I mean, where you see they're going to include this controversy in his season of The Golden Bachelor. They're going to discuss it, I'm sure. And I'm just wondering what if Love Island had used that approach instead of, kicking off the Islanders? I don't know what the right answer is. I don't work in production. I'm not a producer. I understand that if you break a guideline, like there are consequences. I just don't know. It's just a different way to think of something, right? A different outcome. Would that suffice? Would people be okay with that? Probably not. Let's just be 100% honest. But we'll see about Mel Owens. You know, I remember when I was at the Hulu event, Hulu's Get Real House, and they announced Mel Owens, and he was, you know, talking to Jesse in front of everybody. David did lean over to me in that moment, and he goes, "Seems like an odd pick." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He doesn't really fit the vibe of like Gary or Joan. There's a different vibe to Mel Owens, ex-athlete, you know, 45 to 60-year-old. You know, now that that podcast has come out, I'm like, okay, yeah, David was right. David's got a good picker, y'all. That sounded really odd. Let's just move on, okay? Let's move on. Okay, so that's all I have for you. If you want Bachelor in Paradise weekly recaps, I do recap the episodes on the Patreon, so make sure you're subscribed. Patreon.com/Morgan's Pop Talks, the Bachelor tier. If you want Bravo Friday, we discuss all things Bravo there. If not, I'll see you next week for another episode of MPT. Please leave a review if you haven't done so yet. A little 5-star boop boop. A little love you like a sis, because you know I do. That's all. See you next week for the Love Island finale. And as always, love you like a sis.